All right, good evening from London. I took the train here from Oxford earlier today. We're officially at the halfway point of my time studying in Oxford, and they've given me a long weekend with the Friday and the Monday off. And I want to use that time to check out a country that I've never been to before for more than a layover, Germany, namely the city of Munich. So we're going to be flying very early tomorrow into Frankfurt, taking a train through the German countryside into Munich to check out some of the amazing sights that they have there. And as well, we'll be taking some really awesome side trips out to Stuttgart to see the Porsche Museum, and as well, further afield to see famous castles like Neuschwanstein. Really excited to check it out. Let's go.
You're just seeing the latest.
Just made it to the train station here in Frankfurt Airport, found the platform to head to Munich, but before we head all the way there, we'll be taking our first stop of the trip in Stuttgart. As you might have guessed, I didn't go on this trip alone. I invited my family to join me, both because they haven't been to Germany before, and because my sister Kate is an aspiring automotive mechanic, which made my first stop in Stuttgart much more special. All right, welcome to Stuttgart. It's one of Germany's main manufacturing capitals. So both Mercedes-Benz and Porsche, where we're headed now, have major factories here. So lots of industry, but also lots of history. Let's check it out. To get to the Porsche Museum from the train station, we use Stuttgart's U-Bahn network. The U-Bahn and the S-Bahn are the urban and suburban train metro networks that you'll find in any major German city. A single ride will set you back about €3, so it's often worth it to get the €10 24-hour pass. After a few stops, we arrived.
Hey guys, I'm Chaz's sister Kate. We're at the Porsche Museum here in Stuttgart, Germany, and I'm the car nut in the family, so I'm why we're here. Factory's also here. You can see we got some cars lined up, all different models. They're personal cars, it looks like, and I'm really excited. It's a super historical place, super historical car company. Let's go!
The €12 ticket lets you see every car on display, from the horseless carriage to racers.
Convertible ones are way more rare, a lot less of them are made, and there's also way fewer of them in good condition because convertibles rip and tear so easily. Especially back then, before plastic was really a big material used in cars, they were all leather, which would dry rot.
It's also got interactive exhibits that Kate really enjoyed. But my favorite part came when I ran into a massive celebrity. Oh my God, it is so nice to meet you. I've seen all of your movies and I just love your work. After a few hours, we took the train the rest of the way to Munich. Founded in 1185, it's a landmark of German and Bavarian culture. I spent my first evening wandering the streets, which often suddenly change from modern to medieval. Behind me is the first famous historical site of the trip. This is Karlstor Gate, dating all the way back from the 1300s. Right now, I'm on my way to a free organ concert at St. Michael's Church. Just arrived to the Dachau concentration camp. It was opened in 1933 to imprison and execute Hitler's political dissidents, but later the camp, along with many others, were expanded to house the massive amount of people that Hitler wanted to ethnically cleanse, so particularly people of Jewish descent. Anyone that didn't fit his ideal Aryan profile was to be sent to these camps. And so while there's a lot to learn and explore here, lots of history, I also want to be very conscious of the massive loss of life that happened here. Perhaps the most famous prosecution of the Nazis after World War II were the Nuremberg trials, but it's also important to note that this camp, Dachau, was the host of its own set of trials where US officials prosecuted Nazis for their atrocities in these camps. The exhibits were incredibly powerful. Instead of simple explanation placards, most of the sites were denoted by actual quotes from the journals of Holocaust victims and survivors, and seeing their words being put next to these visceral artifacts and images of what they had to experience was incredibly heavy, but also incredibly important for, you know, anyone's understanding of the history of the Western world, the world in general, but especially Germany. Keeping that context in mind, I'm really excited to continue exploring this country, which has so much to celebrate. I will be headed back to Munich to explore some of the more modern and some of the less modern cultural traditions of Germany. In Munich proper now, checking out one of the most famous squares in the entire city. This is Marienplatz, and while the square itself dates back about 1,000 years, this building behind me dates back only to the late 1800s, early 1900s, but there still are some older monuments here, especially the pillar with a statue of the Virgin Mary on the top, a golden statue commemorating the fact that Munich, even amidst Luther's Protestant Reformation, was still a bastion of Catholicism. And another cool detail, on the top of this 290-foot tower behind me, there's a massive cuckoo clock type thing that plays a little story once every couple hours. Here in one of Munich's famous beer gardens, and it's kind of a free-for-all in terms of getting a table, but once you do, you sit down, get served with the classic German lunch, which is some sort of sausage, big old pretzel, and a mug of German beer. We have secured the food here in the Munich beer garden. First, we have this massive, over a foot long bratwurst, and then yet another massive item is this pretzel, which bigger than my head, and then the pièce de résistance, if you will, this massive mug of beer. After lunch, we went to Alte Pinakothek, a famous art museum in downtown Munich. From there, we went to the BMW Museum, which I wouldn't recommend because it's pretty expensive, doesn't have air conditioning, and the much cooler looking and free BMW World is just across the street. And then we headed across town to find our dinner spot, which just so happens to be a really unique way to delve into the culture here in Germany, and hear me out on this one.
Sweet chili chicken.
Alright, we just got the food. We're gonna check out what some of the differences are. The fries, essentially the same. But then the big difference here is this isn't, and I spilled all of my fries. I spilled all of them on the ground. I picked up a handful of them, but as you can see, this, oh goodness, what a mess. This is the Royal Cheeseburger, and it's basically the same thing as the quarter pounder. We're gonna put the remnants there. And the other thing that I noticed wasn't even food related, but they're trying to be all environmentally conscious here at McDonald's Germany, and they've got these sort of lids here instead of the straws they might give you in the US. So let's dig into the burger and what's left of the fries. Alright, so I couldn't resist trying it for myself, so I got a traditional German cake here, Erdbeerkuchen. Hope I'm pronouncing that right, but check this out. This is from a McDonald's, and give it a try. That's fantastic. After a full day of sightseeing, we went back to the hotel to rest up for a full day of mountains and castles. Today is my last full day in Germany, and we're headed to the Alps. All right, we have arrived to the Alps and to Neuschwanstein, built in the late 1800s for Ludwig II. It actually was never used by the monarch himself because he died before it was completed, leaving it an only partially constructed castle. Ludwig II, because he died, never actually got to live here, but he did come and check it out a couple times. And in the process of its construction, he was particularly inspired by Norse myths and other fairy tales. And I think you can kind of see that in how this castle looks, because it really does look like something out of a fairy tale. All right, we've just made it inside the castle, and it's pretty spectacular. And on the actual interior, filming is somewhat discouraged, so I'm gonna be as discreet as possible with the old iPhone here and give you a look at this gorgeous castle's interior. All right, just got out of Neuschwanstein. It was fantastic, so many ornate rooms, and the most striking fact of all was that none of them were really used, from these full kitchens to all of these magnificent throne rooms and this theater looking room. None of it got used, and I find that absolutely fascinating. Apparently all the Nazis used it for was storage for stolen art, and the Allies later recovered so much art here, enough to fill 49 train cars. So definitely impacted some of the later history of the 20th century too. But with that, we're gonna head on to the second castle of the day. That's a pretty cool sentence to say. Almost all the way up the hill here to Hohenschwangau. This is the much older castle in the town of Schwangau, and this is actually where Ludwig II, who had Neuschwanstein built, this is where he grew up. And while the castle itself is originally from the 1100s, his father had it completely redone to match the neo-Gothic style of Neuschwanstein. English tours of here and Neuschwanstein are pretty well priced, but they're really, really tough on time. So if you're even a couple minutes late for your timed entry slot, they might not let you in. And on the off chance that you do miss your timed entry, you will miss the inside, but there's still so much to see here on the outside. So much to explore on the top, what with these gardens and all, and some pretty magnificent sculptures, paintings, and to top it off, the views. The inside wasn't as grand as Neuschwanstein, but it's still cool to see how a young Ludwig would have grown up in these beautiful ornate rooms. From there, we drove out of the city to get up high. All right, we're now at the base of the foothills of the Alps, and when I said we were going up high, we really are. We're taking the cable car all the way up the mountain. It's called the Tegelberg, and really excited to get up there and check out the view. Up we go. This thing is really fast.
Yeah, it is.
Another activity at the top here that is popular, but not for the faint of heart, is hang gliding and paragliding. And it's certainly not cheap, but I imagine for those with the money, it's an experience of a lifetime. But even if you don't feel like jumping off a cliff up here, there's plenty that the lift ticket to the top gets you. There are tons of trails that take you to the very tippy top of this mountain, and there's a really nice cafe that you can go and sit in and watch the paragliders take off. So my dad and I are splitting off from the group to do this hike to the summit, and not sure how far we're gonna be able to get because the last lift down is at 5, but hopefully we can see something awesome that'll make this steep journey worth it. So we didn't end up going all the way to the summit, but we did reach the shoulder of the mountain we're on, called the Neuschwanstein, and here is a view into the Austrian Alps. So I said we were close to Austria, but I didn't realize we were this close. My dad just got a text from our data provider saying, "Welcome to Austria." Apparently, we must have pinged an Austrian cell tower, but we must be pretty close. Alright, just got back to Munich, and what an amazing full day it was today out in the Alps, getting to see both Hohenschwangau and Neuschwanstein. But really, for me, the highlight was getting to go to the top of one of the foothills of the Alps and gaze out into both the German and Austrian mountaintops. It was majestic, it was unlike anything I've ever seen. I did compare it to the Rockies, but honestly, there's just some sort of extra magic that I couldn't even quantify. It was so great. Really excited going into this final day in Germany. All right, good morning. It's my final day in Munich, and I head to the airport tonight, but until then, I want to pack in as many local traditions and see as many cool monuments as possible. So let's say you don't have an entire weekend in Munich. Maybe you've only got 24 hours. This last portion of the video will show you how much you can get done in just that amount of time.
The Wittelsbach's 12th century Residenz Palace was our first walking tour stop.
You can come all the way inside this magnificent courtyard for free, but if you want to go in and tour the treasury and the museum, it'll set you back a little bit more. And today I've got a lot to do, so we're gonna keep moving. If you've been to Italy before, you might recognize this, though we're certainly not in Florence, but this arcade-style structure here was made as a monument for the ruling family of Munich, the Wittelsbachs, to honor some of their greatest warriors, but they took pretty heavy inspiration from the Italians, and that's the same deal with this church right here. Now, this church was built a lot further back in the 1600s, but it had to be extensively restored after it was bombed by the Allies in World War II. So really this entire square is pretty heavily inspired by Italy.
After a few more minutes of walking, we came across one of the most unique and popular attractions in Munich, the Eisbach, or standing wave.
It was built from a series of 8-foot tall rocks just under the water, creating this massive, as you can see, standing wave. And these sort of urban surfers come in and try their hand to see how long they can last. And for some of them, they can go for a while, and then other people just wipe out immediately. But either way, it looks like a lot of fun because you get to just sort of sail all the way down here, and the water looks pretty refreshing.
I watched the surfers navigate and wipe out in the standing wave for a while before heading to my final stop of the trip, the world-famous beer hall, Hofbrauhaus.
It's this Bavarian-style beer, pretzel, and sausage hall that dates back to the 16th century. And the way they do food here is a little bit misleading at first. All of the individual items look really expensive, but they're actually meant to be split between 2 and 3 people. So don't let that scare you away from a historic culinary experience in Munich. Cheers. Just finished up the meal, had an excellent Bavarian cheese spread, and then had one of the best ice cream dishes of my entire life for dessert. What an excellent way to cap off this beautiful weekend in Munich and southern Germany. I hope this video has helped to show you all the things you can do with both a budget of money and a budget of time, and as well maybe some of the things that you might want to splurge on, like going out to Neuschwanstein or taking the cable car up to the top of Brandenstoffen. There's so much to do here, and you could spend an entire week here. But as for me, I'll be heading back to Oxford tonight, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Auf Wiedersehen. So my flight was canceled, very fun experience. We were waiting at the gate for a 6:40 p.m. departure. Then it was a 30-minute delay, nothing crazy. But then we get the announcement that our crew has just decided to not show up, so the flight was canceled, and the Lufthansa people instructed us to go to this service center about 20 gates away, and that's when it turned into an all-out sprint of the entire plane running straight for this tiny little desk here. And I was lucky enough to be one of the first people. Well, not really, I'm ticket 134 in the queue, but at least I'm in the queue. This over here is the line for the queue, and as you can see, it keeps going. So my situation is bad, but I imagine it can always be worse. So while I was waiting in this spectacularly long line, I got a very fun email from Lufthansa that told me that they found a flight for me, but the only problem was it was for 7:20 in the morning, 2 days from now, the day after tomorrow. And as you can probably imagine, that doesn't work for me. So this video has now become Project Get Out of Munich Tonight or Tomorrow. Fun little update. Still nothing on when I'm actually getting out of here, but they did give us some room temperature water, some nuts, and a comically wide juice box. So we're headed in the right direction? All right, quick update. We have made it through the flight rebooking, and just as I got there, they told us they weren't doing any more flight rebookings, but I managed to find a flight on British Airways for tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. and they told me they have a refund policy, so I'm gonna have to file it with them later on. But long story short, I've got a flight for almost 24 hours later, but I do have a hotel which is going to be comped for me. I was very polite in saying I need to get back sometime tomorrow and I need a hotel. And they were able to accommodate me, not in exactly the way I wanted, but ultimately we've got a hotel and I'm trying to frame this as positively as possible. All right, finally settled at my room here in the Ramada near the Munich airport, and what a whirlwind it has been these last couple of hours. Took the taxi from the airport, and the guy told me that he took card, and when we arrived at the front of the hotel, his card reader did not work, and he said that I needed cash, which I did not have, because I had spent all of my euros thinking my time in Munich was done. And so basically, instead of letting me go or trying to find some other way to figure it out, we drove around the streets of suburban Munich, and I got a little clip of that here.
Ah, here.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, driver.
It's okay. I will. And basically searched for an ATM until we finally found one. Luckily, that would take my card. And once I paid him off, which ended up being way more exorbitant, I get here, I check in, there's a very nice lady who offers to let me borrow an extra charger for some of my devices, and get in, and the room itself isn't too bad, though pretty exorbitantly priced for the day of. But the one problem was that the entire bathroom has flooded. I attempted to take a shower, and it just started accumulating in the shower as I was using it, and then as soon as I opened the door, it flooded out to this entire area here, and to the point where it's heading into the hallway, and it's pretty wild, honestly. So I'm hoping tomorrow will be great in Munich. I'm hoping it will also be my last day in Munich. All right, good morning from what will hopefully be my final day in Munich, just after 9 a.m. here. So my flight leaves in about 10 hours, so gotta find something to do with that time. Just got back. Munich airport can't get rid of me. Well, at least I hope they can today. Please. All right, so the next task is to find breakfast, and I want to do that relatively quickly because the folks back at the Oxford program have generously allowed me to FaceTime into class today, so I'm thinking breakfast is going to be an American classic. All right, quick little update. We're now in the Lufthansa service center out in the main terminal. I've spoken to a couple of different people after my breakfast at McDonald's about getting reimbursed for everything that I've had to book in the last 24 hours, but also I've heard from other passengers on the previous flight that there are several earlier flights today on Lufthansa, one as early as 2:45 p.m. I'm not sure if I can make that work, but in the meantime, I'll be in this Lufthansa service center trying to get as much work done as possible for my classes. I wanted to visit more Munich today, but I think it's more realistic to focus on getting my money back from this airline and trying to get home as quickly as possible. I've been looking around for a place that takes a 15-euro flight voucher, and guess who accepts it? The beer garden here in the airport. So we're gonna go in, get one last authentic German experience before we catch the flight. Burger, so very excited for that. All right, just got inside the beer garden here, which is very appropriately named Airbrau, and trying to make the most of this last German experience. I got a traditional German sausage with all sorts of different tidbits mixed in there, and they put it on a roll and they gave me some fries. So here is the bun with the sausage, and then here are the fries. And they gave me a Coke Zero, which I have already attacked and I very much enjoyed, and definitely really excited to be in this environment here. It makes me feel like I'm back in Munich without necessarily having to go all the way back there on the 30-minute train ride. And so in about an hour, I'll head to the gate to get ready to catch my flight. All right, just made it to my gate about an hour ago. I've just been waiting and calling home. Had to go over the river and through the woods to get to this gate, which has changed 3 times from C10 to C6 and now C3. And I'm lucky enough to have a seat because there are a lot of people that I've recognized from the flight yesterday, and apparently there are 8 people overbooked, so there are lots of people here that still don't have seats, and I might be looking at another night in Munich. So I'm hoping that my ticket, because I have a seat assignment, will allow me to board without any issues, and I should be boarding here in about 10-15 minutes if all goes well. So we're boarding. We're boarding. All right, I've just landed in London, and I gotta say, this feeling, it's fantastic getting back here after especially a 24-hour delay. I'll tell you, cancellation really sucks, and especially in those first few minutes when you're rushing to try to rebook your flight, all can feel lost, all might feel hopeless, like it really did for me, being my first time going through this. But I hope this video shows you that there are ways to deal with it. You can get through, and yes, you eventually will get to your final destination. So I'm gonna cut off the video here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing my travels through Germany and my unexpected extended trip. Have an excellent rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.
Seiner Hit. Sie singen und sie tanzen, als Horn denken's nicht. Ja, immer wenn was los ist,